Hey, Skift listeners, hear about the latest trends in the travel industry with the Brand USA Talks Travel podcast. Right now, listen to special live from IPW interviews featuring U.S. Travel's Jeff Freeman.
DMOs are at the heartbeat of U.S. travel.
Liz Bittner from Travel South.
A lot of key gateway markets are back.
LA Tourism's Adam Burke.
We all win when we all partner together.
Plus, Brand USA's Stacey Melman and Jackie Ennis with international travel trends and Chris Thompson's farewell finale. I'm Mark Lapidus. Join us for Brand USA Talks Travel on your favorite podcast platform.
Brand USA Talks Travel.
You're listening to the Skift podcast. On today's episode, Senior Hospitality Editor Sean O'Neill interviews travel tech reporter Justin Dawes about his experience on the floor of the Hospitality Industry Technology Expo and Conference, better known as HITEC. The conference bills itself as the world's largest hospitality technology show, and Justin was there in Toronto last week covering it for Skift. In this interview, Justin talks about what he saw and heard at the conference from presenters and industry leaders, the current state of tech in the industry, and why, even amidst all the talk of AI, holograms, and even robots, many hoteliers are talking about focusing on what matters, bringing their operations squarely into the 21st century, versus investing in tech for tech's sake. You can find all of Justin's reporting from HITEC at skift.com, including comments from industry executives and videos of the cutting-edge technology that was on display. Enjoy the conversation.
So welcome, everyone. My name's Sean, based in Washington, D.C., and I'm joined by Justin, who's a digital nomad. Hello, Justin.
Hi.
So HITEC is the world's biggest hotel technology conference. And Justin, you've spent the past few days reporting there on the ground. You've written a few great stories for Skift.com. I used to be the travel tech reporter before you joined. I was the ghost of travel tech past. And I wanted to do this podcast with you to find out some highlights about what I missed at HITEC this year. I think it's the first time I haven't been in like a decade or so. So
wow, yeah.
And I'm glad we're doing this as a podcast because Justin's part-time side gig is he's an actor. And so I have much more of a face made for podcasting than he does. So
I don't know if I'd say that.
So let's dive in, Justin. What was the main theme at HITEC this year?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that I heard over and over, and I think I've heard pretty much since I started working at Skift, is that the hotel tech industry, as we know, is way behind. I think people are just now kind of starting to accept that and invest in technology. But a big thing that people bring up is at home, we're spoiled. We can log in, we can, stream. We have streaming services. We log in once, and then it's there forever. We have smart, depending on how high tech you are, you have smart phones, smart lights, smart thermostat, etc. And then you go into a hotel, and there might be cable TV. Personally, I don't even know how to use cable anymore. So, I mean, it's just not at the same level. And I think there was a time when people would sort of expect that a hotel would be a luxury, and a lot of them just aren't anymore. So I think it's, in a lot of ways, just catching up with the times.
Totally. I think my favorite thing is going into the hotel and they still have those little iPod boxes, the little adapters where you could plug like an iPod from like 12 years ago
right.
in there to recharge it. So I do tend to seek out like hotels like Citizen M's and others so I can cast my music just immediately. But those are very rare. Did any executives sort of like cop to the fact that they're kind of behind? Like, did you like hear any like actual companies agree that they're a little behind the times?
Oh yeah, I mean, all of the hotel executives admit it openly. I mean, there's no way getting around it. I mean, you can't say that you're not. So I think, I mean, it's Citizen M. He was one who just said we're behind, and he basically said it's embarrassing.
Wow.
He actually used that word. So. No, I mean, they are fully aware and they fully admit it.
Cool. Well, what are some, you had some very interesting, a few articles already, more to come. What might be another theme that was from your reporting at HITEC?
Yeah. So, I mean, all that being said about catching up with the times, there's a lot to do. But I think a big theme is around personalization and hyper personalization. I think the talk around generative AI has put the personalization idea kind of in the spotlight, even though it's been there for a while. But I think it's really been being talked about a lot. So that's the goal. But there's so much to do before that. So a lot of the big companies that I talked to and that I heard from, we're talking about all the work it's going to take just to get hotels into the 21st century. So that's putting their systems on the cloud. And right now, a lot of hotels, like even within a single building, they might have the data for the same customer split into different systems, and they're not talking to each other. So it's like before we can talk about personalization, generative AI, any of that, the data has to be in one place. It has to be accessible, and everything needs to be in the cloud. So that was a big thing that people talked about. Data is kind of a boring topic. Just the word data almost like can put me to sleep sometimes, but it really is.
Same.
I mean, that's what artificial intelligence is. It's huge amounts of data.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of this topic, I think of those hotel rooms will have this like storage closet just jammed full of like servers and devices and stuff, because so much of the boxes are actually sitting there on premise there, rather than like in our era of Netflix and Amazon, where so many things, Salesforce, things are up in the cloud. It is kind of crazy. So what I'm hearing you saying is that right now, they have these people training these so-called large language models, and in the process, they sort of accidentally learn Swedish or something because they're just so incredibly intelligent at what they're doing. But none of that is of any use to the hotel industry if the actual data isn't pulled together in one place. It's good structured data that they can apply. So they need to get some of these other basics right before they jump to AI. Is that what you're saying? Or
Right. Yeah. I mean, because the companies are using the generative AI, they're using the underlying technology to help them create things, but they have to lay their own data kind of on top of that. So the AI is pulling like their own customer data, for example, and making suggestions, etc., based on, so with the underlying technology, with the customer data, and it all kind of is mixed together. So if there's no customer data accessible, then it's not going to work the way that you want.
I'm a big fan of Spotify's new AI DJ. It's the first time that the playlists and Spotify actually are like doing, providing me with recommendations. They are. So when are we going to see sort of, that kind of level of personalization at hotels? Is that what they're talking about? Or
It is, yeah. I mean, the idea is like in some of these booking engines too. It's like the idea is to have a kind of like a travel agent or different technologies that talk to each other, that know the guest inside and out, know every little thing, like even what side of the bed they like to sleep on, what time.
That's a little creepy, but
yeah. I mean, and the idea is, the guest shares his information willingly, right? That's kind of the
sure, yeah. Once you get that permission or trust, so to speak, like people are willing to offer that because they're going to get better service. I know I was recently staying at a hotel with my husband, and like the pillows were just not right. They were like just empty bags of fluff, and so you want to get that. It'd be nice not to have to go through the whole hassle of having a robot bring it to you, and just so that they know it up front, right?
Right, yeah. And it's like, I mean, it's, if they have that full customer profile, they're able to input that in a lot of places, and it helps them with upselling. So like maybe they know someone really enjoys a spa, so they can just make a suggestion to this person, like here's a discount for the spa, or here's what we're offering, or I mean, and for me, if you suggest like tickets to a football game, that's a waste of time because I would never do that. So, it's just knowing the customers so you can serve them better.
Hey, Skift listeners, hear about the latest trends in the travel industry with the Brand USA Talks Travel podcast. Right now, listen to special live from IPW interviews featuring U.S. Travel's Jeff Freeman.
DMOs are at the heartbeat of U.S. travel.
Liz Bittner from Travel South.
A lot of key gateway markets are back.
LA Tourism's Adam Burke.
We all win when we all partner together.
Plus, Brand USA's Stacey Melman and Jackie Ennis with international travel trends and Chris Thompson's farewell finale. I'm Mark Lapidus. Join us for Brand USA Talks Travel on your favorite podcast platform.
Brand USA Talks Travel.
Some of the companies that were there in your reporting, you've talked about AWS, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Amadeus, Oracle, and others were talking about things. What were some of the innovations you saw at the event that might drag the hotel sector kicking and screaming into the modern era?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were countless property management systems, all the like the base technologies. There were many of them, lots of them there. And so that's kind of like the first step, I suppose. But I mean, there were a lot of, so once you do that, once you're in the cloud with one of those systems, there are so many vendors, so many products, housekeeping, like a chat for customers. There's digital tipping. I mean, so many things that you can hook up once you have the ability to do so easily. There were some even more kind of gimmicky things too, which we can talk about as well. Like robots, of course.
Yeah, let's talk about gimmicky things like robots. So is your idea that hotels should put robots, is that number one priority because we have this labor crisis and we should have a lot of robots?
Number one priority, maybe not. Maybe not even 2, 3, 4, or 5. Maybe like 10. I mean, it's there is the labor shortage, and that is something that people talked about, and that's a reason why so many people want to modernize and just make things more efficient, so that so that they don't need to have so many people, or the people that they have can do the things that they need to be doing, like serving guests. But I think the room service robot that I saw was really cool. I mean, it was kind of, you can put some wine in there and program the robot to show up at a room, and it can find its way around the hotel, knock on a door, ride the elevator. It's really, I mean, there has to be somebody that I guess puts the things in the robot. So I don't know if how much time it would really save. At the very least, it's a cool thing for a guest. Somebody very well might want to go to a hotel to see the room service robot. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think there are more important issues, but why not get a robot?
Cool. Well, when you were walking around the floor and seeing things, was there anything that sort of grabbed your attention? You mentioned earlier before gimmicks, but maybe, sometimes gimmicks are fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, the robots that we mentioned, there was a hologram this year, and I did a story. Ooh. Yeah, it was very, very fun. I did a story with this company actually several months ago, when they went into their first hotel. But yeah, they had people, they had attendees. You can go stand in front of the camera, and then your full body image is projected into this hologram box. And it looks, if you're standing right in front of it, it looks, it's not going to trick me, but it looks real enough to where it's, a little creepy, I'll say, but also really cool.
Wow. That's really, huh.
Yeah.
Is there anything, did you feel like, a lot of times hotel companies talk about sort of the next generation, and we need to attract that next generation traveler. And so, to a certain extent, you are the next generation traveler they're trying to attract. Did you feel like what you heard about on the floor makes you feel overall optimistic about the way things are going in the hotels, or are you sort of do you feel like they're off their game?
Yeah, I mean, I think optimistic, because I think people are recognizing that they need to catch up. I mean, I was talking with someone from Oracle Hospitality who mentioned that I think earlier in the process, a few years ago even, it took a lot more work to sell being in the cloud, for example. And now just those people alone, those clients of theirs alone are basically lined up at the door, like eager to do that. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think it shows that they're ready to upgrade.
That's cool. That is optimistic.
Yeah.
You can see videos of some of these products that you're talking about in the articles you did about new hotel tech. So I encourage our listeners, check out skift.com to see the new hotel tech article. I guess one thing I'd like to close on is this year's HITEC was a bit different from past years in that it had competition as an event. The American Hotels Lobby sponsored a somewhat competing event in Las Vegas. So I was curious about the showroom floor. Did HITEC feel busy this year, or was it quiet on the floor?
Yeah, well, it was my first one, so it's hard to compare. I would say, however, that it felt busy, but it didn't feel like it was busy at the level that the biggest hotel tech conference should be. And some of the people that I talked to, I mean, they did mention that some people were actually pretty annoyed at the two, because it splits the industry in half. You have to decide which one to go to. And there were companies that I talked to, some of them stayed, or some of them went to Toronto and some of them went to Vegas. So I think inevitably it was probably smaller than the past. Someone did mention that to me, actually, that it was smaller than past years that they had seen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then good news that the competing hospitality show is going to be at a different time of year next year. They said it was just an accident of scheduling. So hopefully HITEC can roar back to its full potential next year. So Justin, I know it's putting you on the spot for like a big fat question here, but what is the state of hospitality tech now based on this conference? Yeah,
well, there were a lot of exhibitors. I think I can't remember how many exactly. It was like 350 or something like that. But I mean, there were a lot of cloud-based property management systems. I mean, too many, and etc. I mean, a lot of cloud-based products, vendors. I mean, it's just such a there are so many options to choose from. So there's that, and then there are so many vendors offering services like housekeeping on demand kind of thing. And then there are like the super high tech things that only some hotels will see value in, like the robots or the holograms, or super high tech like door locks and safes, things like that. It kind of runs the gamut, I suppose. And I think one issue that I heard about a little bit from hoteliers is that, you have to focus on what matters right now. And sometimes investing in tech just for the sake of tech is maybe not the best decision. You have to do what's best for the operations, what'll really be good to bring your hotel to the next level. And that might not necessarily mean investing in, smart, I don't know, anything when your systems aren't on the cloud yet.
That makes sense. So they're focusing on what matters, like investing in not investing in tech for tech's sake, as you say.
Right. Just, getting your base systems into the 21st century. If you don't have your base systems at that level, then maybe you shouldn't be investing in I mean, there's name any fancy gimmick, I suppose.
Yep. Cool. Seems like a good note to end on, unless there was something else, Justin, you wanted to touch on, or?
No, I think we covered a lot, so thank you.
Okay, cool. You've been really kicking ass on the travel tech beat, so keep on rocking it. And listeners, be sure to check out Justin's articles at skift.com. And thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you.
This has been the Skift Podcast. Thank you for listening.